Braves are set to take on the Reds for 3 starting tonight in Great American Ballpark, and I've got Seth from the Riverfront Reds Show to break it all down. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravetoday.com. Very pleased to be joined by Seth Shaner of the Riverfront Reds podcast, another Believe Podcast Network production. Doing a little crossover action here, Seth. Thanks for being here, and excited to talk some ball with you over here, just like we did over on your show a little bit earlier today.
Yeah, the Riverfront Reds Show. We air it every Friday morning, so that'll be in folks' feeds, and I'm super glad to reciprocate here and be part of your show.
Absolutely. And this series, I'm really excited about a chance to see the Reds. Some of that is just selfishly, I want to watch Elly De La Cruz, one of the most exciting players in baseball. I still remember in his debut year, he hits for the cycle against Atlanta in like the 15th game of his career or something. So very fun player to watch. But from the outside, early this season, it really kind of felt to the Braves that the Cincinnati Reds offense was being powered by Elly De La Cruz and Sal Stewart kind of single-handedly. I think the joke we made was it was Elly, Sal, and the boys.
Yeah.
In the last couple of weeks, how has the offense, has it balanced out a little bit? It feels like Nathaniel Lowe is a little bit of has been a little bit of a catalyst, and the addition of JJ Bleday, I understand, has done a lot of wonders for you guys.
They sort of, I hate to be this critical, but they sort of righted two wrongs. They put JJ Bleday on the AAA roster to start the season because Noelvi Marte had such a great middle of the season last year, really kept them in the playoff race last year when some guys were struggling. Marte did not get out of the gates well at all in right field, didn't do the job. And so they bring Bleday back up, and he's just been amazing. I think his OPS going into last night's game was 983. Just been a great asset to the Reds. He came up in late April, early May. And then Nathaniel Lowe, he was a non-roster invitee, really said, I've got to earn my spot. And he earned a spot as a lefty power bench bat because when you had Ke'Bryan Hayes' defense at third, you had Sal Stewart, the rookie, playing first base, and you had Eugenio Suarez at the DH. There really wasn't much room for Lowe unless you really needed that lefty-righty matchup. Yeah. And Suarez got banged up, and Hayes didn't hit at all. And here we are these last several weeks, and you're right. Lowe has been a really good thing. I want to share something with you, and maybe your folks can chuckle at this throughout the weekend. My son, he's 15 years old, diehard Reds fan. I thought I lost him until that 2023 season when Elly came up. Yeah. And now he's all in again. We're sitting on the couch, and Lowe hit a home run earlier in the season. And my son looked at him in the batter's box. He said, Dad, he's the red dumper. Not the big dumper, but he's a bigger guy, and now he's a Cincinnati Red. So and plus they wear those on Saturday nights. They're wearing those
the City Connects
all Reds.
Yeah,
and boy, Lowe fills those pants out pretty good. So the red dumper, if he does anything against your Braves this weekend, just remember the red dumper.
Listen, I'll find a way to use that. I'll slip it into a game recap. I'll slip it into one of the shows. We will help get the red dumper nickname out there going. I can promise you that. Nothing we love more than a good bit. I do want to ask a lot of Braves fans, and this is some of this is a little bit of that like large market. It's not going to happen, but they want to believe it does. A lot of Braves fans were wondering, especially last year when he struggled, about replacing Ozzie Albies. And one of the guys that they always talked about is, if the Reds ever wanted to get rid of Matt McLain. I was really impressed with him early in his career. He missed a full season for a shoulder issue, I believe. And it just looks like since he's come back, he's not really been the same guy. And he's playing a lot. I think he has over 50 games right now. He's playing a lot, but not really producing. What's going on with Matt McLain? And is this something where he eventually can be fixed, or is the book kind of closed on the post-injury version of this kid?
It's really tough because he comes up in 23. He came up like maybe 10 days before Elly.
Like
And
right around the same time. Yeah.
you reference that series between the Braves and Reds, like when he hit for the cycle. Joey Votto, I think, hit 2 home runs in that game. It was a wild game.
Ugh.
That was part of a 10-game winning streak for the Reds. And that's what ignited the excitement. My kids, everybody of a younger age that kind of checked out on the boring Reds, now all of a sudden had somebody to cheer for. McLain got banged up at the end of that year.
Ooh.
But over 90 games, he had about a 3.5 B WAR, I think, if I'm recalling properly. Just amazing. And we were salivating at that double play combo.
For years. Yeah.
Misses all of 24 with shoulder surgery, and he had a bit of a oblique type thing at the same time. So he had to come back from all that. And he comes back last year. He was actually hitting pretty well the first 10 or so games this season. Went on the IL for something totally unrelated. And when he got back, he just never regained it. And the wild thing, even Tito Francona's talked about, every time it looks like he's going to lose his job, he basically reads the writing on the wall and goes out and goes like 2 for 3 or 3 for 4 and has 2 or 3 good games. And then you're like, okay, we can count on him the rest of the season. And then his batting average this past week was back down around 205 again. And it's like, he's so good at defense, and Tito Francona is going to lean toward playing a guy that can play really well up the middle. And it's weird because he still does little things here or there that you say that helped the Reds win today.
Yeah.
But then you look at the
package.
Yeah, you look at the numbers, not only just you say batting average, but everything, like his strikeout percentage, his walk percentage is down. Everything about it is just not there. His slug is way down. I still have a lot of hopes, but they've got this guy named Edwin Arroyo tearing it up in AAA. Switch hitting shortstop, plays second or third as well. With South Stewart, he's figuring things out. He had a little bit of a lower level, where the pitchers maybe figured him out a little bit, but now he's back on the upswing, I believe. Matt McLain is on one of his last lives for sure.
Yeah, and it's just one of those, to your point, a little bit frustrating. Like the talent's there, you see flashes, but it hasn't kind of come back together. When it comes to the offense, I know that I feel like the outfield's had a little bit of uncertainty. TJ Friedel was leading off for a long time. It looks like he's kind of lost his job to Blake Dunn. Spencer Steer's that kind of guy who can play anywhere. I've seen him at second, I've seen him at first. I've seen him in the outfield, both corners. Outside of the Bleday and the Nathaniel Lowe and the South Stewart and Elly De La Cruz, who should Braves fans be talking about, knowing that they're already aware of what Eugenio Suarez can do because he hit 4 home runs in a game against them last year? Like, who else are they not? Are they not talking about Dunn? Are they not talking about Stevenson? Who are they not paying attention to that they should be?
Well, so Friedel is one of the guys that like basically took a while to make it stick at the big league level.
Yeah,
and then he's just got that. He was a potential all along of you've seen it before. You get your late 20s after you took a while to get there, and you just fall off.
Yeah.
And so I just worry he's really not going to get it done. The Reds have had 2 off seasons now to get, outfielders. And Bleday, certainly, as we mentioned, has come up really big of late. But they could have really done a lot more work there. Blake Dunn's interesting because Blake Dunn is a guy you need on your team. Blake Dunn is actually – and you when we recorded our show, you mentioned Elly De La Cruz being fast. Elly put on like 30 pounds of muscle. And the speed's not quite there the same anymore. Right. But even at Elly's peak, speed-wise, Blake Dunn actually beat him in a race.
Ooh.
And Blake Dunn listen, these guys are probably bigger than they look. Blake Dunn looks like he's about 5'9", 5'10", and he doesn't look that, like, swift. But he bunted last night, and he was home to first in, like, 3-6 or something.
Golly.
And so if you can bottle that up just for this short term, he's come up and made a difference. He bats right-handed, so that's the difference between he and Friedel. I do really see him kind of taking over for Friedel. And then you mentioned Spencer Steer's name.
Yeah.
Spencer Steer, when he came up, you thought, and he came up late 22. I got to sit third base dugout in Cincinnati and watched his first home run as a big leaguer. That was really fun. And then 23, he was great. He was one of the young guys, the infusion of young talent. He just hasn't hit since. He looks like a guy when you watch him play who could be a throwback to like the Terry Pendletons and the Barry Larkins and just be that guy that hits around 300 every year. And I know I've referenced batting average, but I'm a kid of the 90s. That's what I'm going to do. Spencer Steer is finishing his greatest month of his big league career right now. And I would look for him. He plays first, second, left or right field. He could play third if he had to. He will get the job done, and he'll hit a few home runs, but he's a line drive hitter who you do have to watch out for.
Everybody needs that kind of guy. Fun thing on Blake Dunn, you're right. He's about 5'9". I was lucky enough in 2023. I called a week of minor league games when he was with Chattanooga. They were in Montgomery, and I was calling games for Montgomery for a week. I had a chance to talk to him. Super nice kid. He hit a home run in the series. I think he walked like at least 6 or 7 times in a 5-game span.
Right.
Fantastic dude, but you're right. He's like 5'9". He's not incredibly big or anything. But you can see that fantastic athlete, super nice person, and that always matters a lot to me. All right. In just a second, I want to talk about the pitching. We're recording this before we have the official pitching matchups, but I think we know who it's going to be. And just there's been a little bit of both teams are kind of avoiding the ace. I want to talk about your embrace of Pierce Johnson, who used to pitch for Atlanta last year. We'll do all of that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby, joined by Seth Shaner from the Riverfront Reds Show, another Believe Podcast Network production. Make sure you check it out. New shows drop every Friday, and then live shows on Sunday night. Am I right, Seth?
Yeah, we have a live show called Late Night Reds. Ben Brown and Skylar Whipker host that, and it gets more interactive because it is live on YouTube. And a lot of folks get in the comments section, and that kind of drives that show. It's really exciting, especially when the Reds are playing well.
Yeah, always love to kind of get the voice of the fan on the shows and hear the comments. So the pitching matchups, again, time of recording, they're not official, but Chris Paddock, Brady Singer, and Nick Lodolo look to be who Cincinnati is throwing out there. The Braves look to be countering just kind of based on how it lines up with something like Grant Holmes, Martin Pérez, and then Spencer Strider. You miss Chris Sale. We miss Chase Burns. Hopefully we don't have to do this in the rain like we did for the Speedway Classic last year, but it feels like both of these teams are just dealing with pitching injuries, and the rotation, you're kind of having to piece it together. We didn't think Martin Pérez on a minor league deal would be part of it. You guys grabbed Chris Paddock from the Miami Marlins just a couple weeks ago. What's your thought about how these teams match up on the mound this weekend? Because to me, it feels like it's pretty even.
I think it is. I think I'm a little wary because the Reds entered spring training with the idea of Brady Singer's your 5th starter, and Brady Singer compares, in my opinion, very favorably to some of the years Bronson Arroyo gave the Reds, where back then Arroyo had 200 innings every year. That's not happening these days. But in today's parlance, Brady Singer giving the Reds 180 innings last year was a lifesaver. He just
post every 5th day.
You take 2 starts away, and he had like a 3.7 or 3.8 ERA. With those 2 bad starts, he was up around 4.05, and you thought, okay, we can build everything up in front of him, and he'll just be Mr. Consistent. So Singer, though, this year has not gotten it done. In fact, I think a start or 2 ago, he took a comebacker off the leg, and it was almost as if actually they skipped his start because they had the rain out with the Cardinals on Sunday. So they ended up skipping his start. And so that's the one area I'm a little concerned about, because you went into spring training and Hunter Green was your ace. Andrew Abbott was coming off an all-star appearance in a great year. And then you had Burns and Rhett Lauder, who were the young guys. They both were drafted, I think, number 2 overall back-to-back years, or in the top 10 anyway. And then you got down to Singer and some of these other guys. Well, Hunter Green's been out. He missed from basically week 2 of spring training. He had a similar surgery to what Tariq Skubal had. But the funny thing with Skubal was like, they only found 1 loose body in my elbow.
And he had a new procedure. Yeah, we had a couple guys with the same procedure at the same time. Pitcher Swellenbach, Hurston Waldrop, they also had loose bodies, and they also didn't get the Skubal procedure, the faster one.
Yeah, so Green thankfully started throwing off a mound just this week or so. And so his timetable to come back still probably resides in late June, early July. So you not only miss Chase Burns because of the rotation, but you miss Hunter Green. Rhett Lauder was pitching really well. He had some shoulder discomfort. We're pretty concerned about that as well. But Andrew Abbott's come back. You miss him as well. Andrew Abbott, they put Andrew Abbott in a tough spot. He was the opening day starter. He started against some really good pitchers. including Garrett Crochet on opening day. And it just, things didn't line up very well. But these last probably 10 starts or so for Andrew Abbott, he's been really good. So you miss both guys there. You miss Chase Burns and Andrew Abbott.
Yeah. And honestly, I think Abbott turned around because I got fed up and dropped him in fantasy. And I think that's what, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. This bullpen, I have to ask, I haven't watched a ton of Reds games this year. We play it around the same time because we're similar time zones. Fangraph's depth chart has 5 different closers listed for the Reds. I know that obviously they've had to kind of figure out what to do with Emilio Pagán on the injured list with a strained hamstring. But one of those guys is Pierce Johnson, former Braves curveballer who was here for a couple seasons. Are all 5 guys really rotating in as closer, or is it just these are the high leverage arms and they play matchups every single night?
Okay, so basically what happened is they gave Pagán $10 million to come back. He had a great year last year, over 30 saves. Was never flashy, but got the job done. And I said, I don't care what the money is, you need to have depth in your bullpen. You need that. But he wasn't getting the job done even before the hamstring issue. The next guy up would have been Tony Santillan, but he had, I believe, 80 plus appearances for 90 innings last year.
Ooh,
and they rode he and Pagán down the stretch. And that was my big thing in the offseason. Will they pay for that this year?
Right.
Well, they slow played Santillan so much in spring training that his velo was only like at around 93 or 94 when they broke camp. He's normally resides 97 to 99.
Yikes.
And it was like, what's going on? And he started like his first 10 innings, he didn't give up a run. And it was like, okay, he's fine. He's working into it. He finally started to see more velo, and the next X amount of appearances are historically bad. He's given up like 10 home runs over the last month and a half. And it's like, what is going on? So that, it's like a domino effect. Mm-hmm. Pagán's on the IL. Santillan has coughed it up. Burke came in and did a good job one night and got a save. And then Pierce Johnson, the funny thing with him is he's Pagán's best friend. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. No, I did not know that.
They pitched together, I believe, in San Diego.
Okay.
And so that was a catalyst for saying, hey, get him on the horn. Let's see if he can come. But he started out the year so poorly. He was like an expensive mop-up guy. And now he's become their most reliable reliever.
He got the win last Saturday.
Yeah, through attrition almost. So, yeah, it really is. It really is kind of like nobody grabbed it after Pagán got hurt.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the other problem, Lindsay, they have.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they had Nick Martinez. Ooh, and Nick Martinez was that guy that could go starter. Nick Martinez had a night when he started poorly, so he only lasted like 2 1/3 inning. He relieved 2 days later, and then he made his scheduled start. And I was down there against the Padres. He took a no-hitter 2 outs into the 9th.
Golly.
And it's like, this guy does everything. He went back and forth from the rotation to the bullpen. And when it was clear that he was a rotation piece, they traded for Zach Littell with the Rays last year.
Mm-hmm. And
Zach Littell became that guy that could go 3 or 4 innings. The Reds don't have a long man. If you look at their deal, they have X amount of games where they like had 1-run wins, 1-run games. They have a good record, I think, in that. They've won 1-0, 2-1 so many times, but they get blown out. They have a negative 20-something run differential. That last week,
I think, yeah,
it was 29 2 nights ago. So it's like they just don't have anybody in long relief. So guys wither on the vine then, in the middle of games where you're down 2 or 3 runs.
Yeah. I think that's definitely something Braves fans are going to think about. See, we have multiple long men right now because we have some guys who are swinging back and forth between the rotation and the pen. And so Atlanta has the ability to just piggyback a short start with the starter from a bulk guy who can give you 3 or 4 innings. And it's proven to be a competitive advantage for Atlanta because they've been so aggressive at getting starters out of there if they have a little bit of trouble when the game's at stake. Mm-hmm. Even if it's the 5th inning, like they'll pull a guy before he finishes 5 because they want to preserve the win, and they have the long man if they need to. They have the leverage arms if they need to. I think it's going to be a fun matchup.
One thing that derailed that idea, they have a guy named Brandon Williamson, and Brandon Williamson was one of their best starters in 2023. 377 or in 2023 ended the season well. He did not play all last year, and he didn't play most of 2024 with injury. And so the idea with him was they groomed him throughout spring training to be that long man to take the place of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you had those injuries, he ended up in the starting rotation, and now he's on the injured list again. So
Yeah,
they just kind of lost that. There's that void of they spent a little this offseason, but they weren't going to give Martinez the money they gave him the year before with the $16 million they gave him, and then Littell got away as well. Littell didn't sign until early to mid March with the Nationals, and he's just now rounding into form. So could have been a help there if you had one of those guys back.
Yeah, definitely. Just the bullpen construction. It almost feels like Tito's hands are a little bit constrained by what he has available to him. So, okay. So again, 3 games, 6:40 tonight, 7:15 on Friday, 1:40 on Saturday. What's your prediction for the series? Because for Atlanta, and this is always tough, right? Because we cover our teams. For Atlanta, my hope is that this ballpark can help them with some of the offensive issues they've been having recently. You know, it's anecdotally, we call it Great American Small Park because everybody knows it's a smaller dimension. Yeah. So my hope is that Atlanta's offense can kind of find themselves again after a tough series in Boston, and that this ends up being like a 2-1 series win. But I honestly think it just comes down to game 3. It comes down to those 2 aces, or those 2 number 2 pitchers for each team, and which team can get better performances on Sunday when you look at a Strider and a Lodolo, and which guy can come back from injury and look like themselves first.
Well, the Reds are only 8-16 against teams with 500 or greater record. So you start there.
Ooh, yeah.
The Reds had a ton of American League games earlier in the year, and they just dominated. But they've done pretty well in the National League outside of the Central as well. They have a really putrid division record that they can't seem. They started like 1-9 in division. So, I think it does come down to that last game. I think that I don't think one of the teams sweeps. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly coming from Cincinnati fan, I'll say the Reds take 2 or 3, but I haven't watched enough of Strider. I do know, as I told you, Lodolo has had, I believe, 3 starts, and his last one was a good one, and the other 2 just weren't. So I look for a little more length out of him, but I also look for more consistency. The one thing to look for with Lodolo, he does not pitch all that well at Great American Ballpark. There's Reds pitchers, Chase Burns, Hunter Green, when they're locked in, they don't care what park they're in. Lodolo's one that doesn't do as well as at home as other guys.
And, Strider being a fly ball pitcher, I imagine he also could struggle as well. That could be like a 8-7 win by somebody.
Elly's not afraid of the Braves either, as you saw. He had his coming out party.
Exactly.
He hit the cycle, as you mentioned, his first 15 games. It was the first Reds cycle since Eric Davis, June 2nd, 1989. So it's my goodness, what a coming out party that was. And again, what a night it was overall. That was a fun night.
That series was a ton of fun. And like I said, I think on your show, Rays fans just enjoy watching Elly De La Cruz. He's one of the game's young talents. And there's a lot of comparisons there between what he does and what Ronald Acuna Jr. did early in his career, and kind of how they were their style of game and how flashy they are and how naturally talented they are. It's a ton of fun to watch. Seth, where can folks go to get more of your content, your takes, and all of that?
We are at Riverfront Cincy on Twitter and YouTube. You can find us there. You can find us anywhere you get audio podcasts, as you mentioned. We are part of the Believe Network as well. And we come out with Reds shows, the Riverfront Reds Show every Friday morning. The audio version of Late Night Reds is released Sunday into Monday every week. We do have a Bengals show called Welcome to the Jungle. And I have a show with a longtime colleague of mine at the local newspaper here, Brian Inglis, and I do The Game 365, where we focus on Ohio State football. We always have one eye on the rivalry, which I know you live, I believe, in Auburn. So you have an eye on that rivalry, the Iron Bowl.
I have a rivalry as well here. Yes.
Yes. So we always keep a look at our rivals. So we talk about that team up north every episode.
You guys make sure that you're following Seth and his work wherever you can get it. They have a Patreon as well. So make sure you go check that out as well. That'll do it for today's episode of Braves Today. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time on Braves Today.